Hey guys, yo, I'm back. Maybe I like yo-yos, that's why I say yo all the time. So I want to pick back up where I left off. Basically, I want to continue. So I'm gonna do that. And last video was basically about the actual end of my relationship, that of my marriage, the actual end of my marriage. And so this is kind of, I guess, kind of, this is what came next. So it was really hard. She was really upset, understandably, and it was the moment that changed everything. Basically, it was her worst dream come true. She had worries about me one day doing that. She had insecurities and worries about me one day ending things. She expressed this a couple years before. And here I was doing it. And yeah, so things were really crazy. She was hysterical. I was like, I can't even really think about or imagine. I think that's why I've been pretty numb to a lot of things, because I haven't been able to think about these things really. But we lived in a house at the time. We shared a house that we rented, and I love squirrels so much. This is a squirrel on the road. And so with me not having anywhere to go, but with her having places to go because her family was nearby, it wasn't right for me to go to her family. She went to her family, and that was that. It was just like, well, we've decided this. Well, I have decided this. And therefore, this is it. This is the end. This is the end. And it's just a crazy thing, such a shattering, kind of like, when you hear about an earthquake and you see the earth go and there's an opening in the earth. It was like that. And it's very sad. Very sad to think about. And so she went over to her grandmother's, basically, and I'm sure told them what had happened and why she was so upset. And this is just such a horrible thing. I can't even imagine her. I can't even imagine. Yeah. And I kind of just went about my normal business, going to work, coming home. But now the house was empty, and I had made this decision, and now everything was different. And I don't know, in a way, I guess I don't know how I lived with myself after such a hard thing, I don't know, it's just, like I said before, it's such a flip thing. It's like one side is like, you evil freaking monster, how could you do this? And the other side was like, you had to do this. You needed to do this for your own well-being. So there was kind of a rightness to it as well. There was definitely a massive wrongness to it. Of course, there was a massive wrongness to it, a massive outcry. But there was also a rightness, I'd say, dare I say, about it, because it's ultimately I'm glad that I'm glad / I guess I'm glad I got out of it, or I'm glad that I ended it. Again, that whole being glad thing, right? Not glad that I ended it, but I am glad that I did something for myself to make my life better. literally to make my entire life better, to make the long run of my life better. And it was immediately beneficial to my mental health, etc., etc., etc. But the trauma of the decision was hard, of course, and the trauma wasn't good for my mental health. So it was very confusing because I wanted to console her and tell her everything was going to be okay. So I think I kind of just kept telling her I was going to be her friend and things like that, and I was there for her, and I was so sorry, and all these things. So now emerged this weird dynamic, this new dynamic that said, well, I'm your friend now, or I will be your friend. It's like, well, I've always been your friend, but we've been more than that. So that was just interesting, you know. I ended up staying there at home, and I had just recently started getting closer to a guy at work. He was this awesome guy who I just thought he was awesome. We just kind of got along naturally. And we had never really talked or spent much time interacting because he was in produce and I was in grocery, and so our two worlds never really interacted that much. Our paths never really crossed. But out of the blue one day, we were back in the back room, both throwing cardboard around and everything, and he mentioned it to me about hanging out sometime or something like that. And I just thought, like, wow, you know, this is kind of outside my comfort zone. Like, normally I don't hang out with anybody really because I just don't have any friends really. I had never really had friends in Reno, not friends. I didn't have friends that I hung out with, at least. But I started hanging out with him and his girlfriend, who he lived with, and they had a couple kids. One that they had together and one that was hers from a previous relationship. And fast forward today he has adopted that son as well. And lots of other stuff has happened, but that's aside, that's another story. So I started hanging out with them, and I believe, I'm trying to think here when this happened. I think it was after I broke up with Kate. I started hanging out with them, and there was this girl. I'm not gonna care about judgment or anything like that, because I don't care about that. It's more important to me that I do what I want to do here, and that is be open and be honest and kind of work through these things again. So there was a girl I was talking to from work, and right around this time, and it kind of changed it. So this altered things as well. And she was way too young for me, basically. Like, just, you know, there's no way that anything between she and I could or would ever work, ever. It would never work, really, between her and I, unless it just did for some reason, it would take a miracle for things to work, because we were so far apart in age, and it was just like the maturity level, all of that. But she flirted with me at work, and we became friends, basically, and talked and laughed and hung out and had fun and hilarious times and everything like that. And I honestly needed that. I needed that relief. I needed that joy. I needed those laughs. I needed them so bad because of just the situation and like what was going on, where I was at in life, and just because of this hard point in my life, you know. And but it was one of those things, like I said, where it was like, well, there was no real way that she and I could work out, because it was like doomed. It was destined to fail. She was a lot younger than I was. There was a generational and maturity gap, as well as practical gap because of our age. And there was just no way that this could work out. There was no way that it could work out. But we continued hanging out and I guess seeing each other. And so I'm not really getting into all the details here, but there was an overlap, unfortunately, where I hung out with her before I broke up with my wife. And that's one of my biggest regrets. That's one of my most shameful moments. That's one of my most shameful moments, basically. Biggest regrets. But yes, I did do that. Yes, it was wrong. And I should have never done that, to say the least. So I guess in a way it helped me to end the relationship because of her. It helped me because I felt like I wasn't alone. It kind of confirmed to me that I had value. So this is a really confusing, complicated thing, right? Like of all sources and of all situations, the rightness of things, nothing really seemed right. There didn't seem to be a lot of things right. You know, everything was messy. Everything was messy, you know? And so it was just really crazy. And so I was hanging out with my new friend, Mike, and getting close to him and confiding in him a little bit and just feeling not judged, feeling like I had a friend, feeling like I could lean on him, feeling like I had someone I could confide in, a good person, a good friend. And he was older than me. He was a little bit older than me, but we were the same age mentally, I guess. We were so close. We were so friends. We were so friends. Like, we were so compatible and such friends. And there was such a coherence between us. It was just like we just got along. You know what I mean? And he was a little bit older than me, but that didn't really matter. That was just the detail, really. And the other part was, he was like my big brother in a little bit, in a way. But he never treated me that way. He never treated me as less than him or more mature than him. He never acted more experienced than me. None of that at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy was awesome. This guy was the best. And trying to think here. There's a segue that I have to get into because it kind of a specific event did happen where it kind of really shaped the future. It did. It really shaped the future for me. And so it's tricky to get into, and I don't know if I can get into it right now because I'm door dashing and I don't know when I'm going to get an order, but I also don't know if I have the strength to get through it right now, and I also don't know if I should say it. There's certain things I don't want to share, but I guess I'll share them. I'll share them in certain ways. It's just a matter of being ready, and I'm not quite ready, so yeah. I will I'll continue this. I'll pick up where I left off here in the future. But yeah. So at least, despite everything that was going on, at least I had a friend. And don't get me wrong, I had friends. I mean, her family still loved me. They still accepted me, had mercy on me, all those things. The thing was, though, I had just broken their granddaughter's heart, so there's not a lot of sympathy for me. You know what I mean? I talked to them, though. I did get together and talk to them and have that conversation and just kind of like apologized and talked to them and told them, like, I'm so sorry, you know, I feel so terrible. And they were kind of they literally just wanted to know what was going on. They wanted to hear it from me. And I basically didn't have the words. I never felt like I had the words. I never had the right words to say, the right explanation. It was always inadequate, right? But I ended up telling him that I just wasn't happy, and yeah, I had become unhappy, and I felt like things were going to stay that way, and I wasn't really going to be able to get out of that. And they knew in some way where they couldn't quite understand in some ways. They were able to understand in other ways. They understood enough. The cool part was we had such a rapport together and love, basically, because they loved me and I loved them, and I still love them. I still care about them. But let's see here. Um so there was a little bit of understanding from them for me that said, well, people go through things, and you've got to be happy, um, you know, basically. And I was very blessed. I was very blessed by her, by my I was very blessed by my life with her in a lot of ways. And yes, there were so many difficulties and so many different things that were just so hard, and deep issues that I had that were just from the relationship or from our life together. But I was so blessed to have her family, and so blessed to be taken in and to be loved and all those things. And I mean, those are the things that you don't take for granted, but those are the things that you want kind of as a given. And I was really blessed because not everybody has that. And they were really wonderful people, kind, fair, generous, friendly, hilarious people. They took me in as part of their family. And yeah. So obviously this is hard, right? This is still hard. All of this is so hard, so hard. And so I'm just dealing with it, just still going through it. I do want to share that when I woke up this morning, I felt so much different than yesterday. I felt this just difference, such a difference, an awareness, but like a relief, a difference. And I'm very thankful for that. So these things are definitely helping. They're definitely helping. But I will continue. But I'm going to call it for right now. So I'll see you in the next one.